Some good learning points on here too. The first D is defects or errors. Did anybody find an error? Raise your hand, big, real big. I'll go all the way to the back because discharge. What did you guys see? Okay, so she missed a patient that was bad. Don't overthink it. What are you going to do next time? Okay. Okay, good. Wow. So she's actually saying missed one that was bad, but there was why? Because there was a whole bunch that were batched and delivered all at the same time. Why? Because she was kind of in that hurry up and wait environment, right? So she's trying to go after the root cause of the issue. If she could have just got one at a time steady. But obviously, she goes a long way. Do you see what? It's easier for her to batch them. And she threw that problem somewhere else. So that's good. Doctors, you guys had one though, right? You're trying hard to solve this issue that we have the result going back to the wrong room. What are we going to try? We're going to label the rooms and we're going to label the trays to start with something simple. And we know that would help. How about O for overproduction? Anybody see overproduction or a batch somewhere? There, you both came straight to the room. So that was kind of cool. They did this by basically registering in the room, and then that cut down one step for the orderly. It was interesting that there's another thing too. One of the doctors kept yelling, runner, runner, get this patient out of the room. Runner, get it out of the room. It's not the runner that takes him out of the room, is it? The runner's like, what? The doctor's looking at him. What? The person's not doing. No, it's the orderly. And by the way, she has a name. Do you see what I'm saying? We're yelling the role out that we think, and it's not even the right role, let alone their name. Do you ever wonder why when people huddle up, they often take the time to show the faces and the names of who your crew is on that shift? It's very powerful to use a name. This person does this for you. They're accountable. They're responsible. Don't yell, hey you, their name is Bobby or Steve or whatever. So names can be powerful. Not utilizing ideas, part of the waste walk is doing this. But did anybody get transport? What's the longest transport that you guys saw? Good. Radiology and lab on opposite ends, what would you do? Somehow get closer together. Here's the thing, early on, be careful of the layout moves. And early on, if we would have said one of the problems was not registering, right, as an error, the solution is often when you say that, well, let's move us and our offices and our computer drops over here to triage. Do you know, once you've moved them, do you think the finance people will give you more money to move it again later that year? Be very careful about moving things, because when you shoot from the hip early on, you're almost always moving people to the wrong place, right? In fact, you guys saw it. If you solved that problem with the blinders on, you'd probably come back here to the triage station to get that done. When Team 2 just demonstrated it, it actually worked much better for everybody if you both did it here. Do you see what I'm saying? Maybe everybody needs to come here instead of moving, sort of shifting the people around. We need to rethink the layout altogether. But that's a good one in transport. Any other transport ones? We're sending this poor patient on a journey, and we always say the physician, the MD's waiting, is highly critical, but you know who's waiting the most? The patient. Again, the patient, the patient, the patient. When you see it through their eyes, this is completely broken. Did anybody see E or extra processing? Extra processing, anybody? Good. So this redraw, doctors, you could have put it under error, right? Doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter what category, but when the doctor does a redraw, so what's one way to reduce that? Get it right the first time. So when we talked about that, Dr. R, what were we talking about? So it was... Right. So it was a range check, a simple range check. Now, just so you know, in real life, we've ironed a lot of those out of our labs, but the two examples I gave the doctor is the creatinine value came back 1 bazillion. If it's 1 bazillion, the patient would be dead, right? So it's impossible. Or it's also coming back telling him that the patient's pregnant. It's a little old man, right? So, so who should be doing this test? He said, well, if it's a range test, then maybe the lab could do. And maybe it's not 100%. Maybe they just do more and more of this. So part of the redraw might be just to have the quality check being done at the lab, right? So the more specific you get, the easier it is to come up with a waste solution. So you just did it. You did your first waste walk, and it seems a little unofficial because sometimes you say, all I'm doing is rolling dice, right? But everybody knows that there's waste. The more specific you identify the waste to be, the more you can observe it with your eyes, the easier it is for you to come up with a solution for this too. So be real specific when you do it. And now remember, you have to do a waste walk in your day. You're going to find waste in your day. So at this point, you've just seen how a waste walk might look. And now I'll say this. You are now dangerous people. So you have you can see the benefit of this. So how about this? In your very next, how would you use this? Let's think of one way to use this. You have to do a waste walk for the next class. But what if you wanted to use it for your team? So how about this? In place of your next staff meeting, that was supposed to be funny. In place of your next staff infection, what if you did a 10-minute waste walk, right? Instead of the next meeting, just do a 10-minute waste walk. Now, here's the thing. If you ask your staff members, the ones that report to you, do we have any waste in our area? What are they going to say? You know what they're going to say. They're going to say, of course we have waste. So if you ask them the question, do you think you can find some? They're thinking, I just told you that there's waste out there. So say, okay, instead of the next 3 agenda items that we normally cover on here in our standing meeting where we sit, let's all stand up. Let's take the waste walk form. I want you to go out in our workplace and identify with your eyes one example of each of the 8 wastes. Then don't overthink it. Be very specific. Don't overthink it. Write down, as soon as you write it down, write down one way to reduce it. Do you see what I'm saying by this? Do this for real. Here's the thing. You're going to have 20 people, let's say, on your team. They're going to find 8 examples of each type of waste. It doesn't matter what category it's in, and they're going to find out 8 ways to reduce it at the end of a 10 or 15-minute waste walk. How many ideas for waste reduction have you generated from that simple waste walk? If you have 20 team members and they each find 8, what is 20 times 8? That's 160 ideas for improvement. I think we're making this waste busting thing way too difficult. Do you see what I'm saying by this? There's 160. Here's what you don't want to do. Don't hand this out and tell people, okay, do whatever you want. If you're going to do a waste walk, you the leader, as they file back in the room, look at their action items. Look at their ideas, ways to reduce it. Here's the key. Pick one. Pick one of them that's no cost and is not going to have a negative impact on safety and quality. Pick one that you really feel they can do. Circle it, hand it back to the individual, and say these words. Let me know how that worked. Over the next 2 weeks, give them 2 weeks. Let me know how that worked. Do you know the average reduction in time from a single circled waste busting idea is about 15 minutes per week? That's what you'll see in the nursing units. They will identify things that are about 15 minutes saved. Now think about this. Nothing in the entire history of nursingdom has ever come off the nurse's plate. And for the first time, they identified something they hated, don't miss this, and they reduced it. What are those nurses going to want to do next? More of them. Do you guys see this? Be ready. We start to do waste walks, and you better start huddling with the true huddle board, because what's going to happen is they are going to start flooding you with ideas. Once they realize that it's, as long as they have some permission and a quick way to check this thing, it's their job to identify and remove waste, and they're going to go after the stuff they hate to do. So this is why I said you're now dangerous people. The average is about 15 minutes of crap reduction from their way. You are now standing in the way. Because you know how to do this, you are now preventing your staff from the benefits of 15 minutes of waste reduction right now. So it's a powerful thing to have the next time you get a chance. But again, what do you have to do? You have to circle how many on there? 1. Don't circle the waste, circle their action. It has to be used no cost, right? No cost. And there cannot be any hint of a negative impact on safety and quality. How would you know? You're the boss. I think you'd know this, right? Pick something that they've done that's easy. Why do we only circle 1 and not 8? We want to get it done. If you want to get something done, focus. Agreed? Do you see what? They can't do 8 things. And if they do 8 things, they're going to want to go away from the workplace for 3 weeks, right? To try them all out. Pick 1. And they're going to want more. The moment you do a waste walk, I'm telling you, if you don't get a huddle board up quickly, it is going to start flooding you as each of the different 20 people, let's say in your department, each get one taste of reducing waste. And again, pick an easy one. Pick one that you think that they can get at for the next couple weeks. The average is about 15 minutes a week. What if we could reduce 15 minutes of waste? It's the start of something really big. So you've done your first waste walk. Good job. Back to the bat cave.